Good afternoon, and welcome to Revolutionary News. I'm your host, Zoe Penland. Today's guests are the infamous Gang of Four, Zhang King, Zhang Chongqiao, Yao Wenyuan, and Wang Hongwen. With the Cultural Revolution at an end, and you four as the culprits, tell me, are you sorry?
I cannot speak for all of us, but as for me, I recognize that the revolution has had lasting effects on our people, and I do feel remorse for that.
I would also like to add that at the time, we genuinely believed that what we were doing was for the good of China.
Personally, I am not sorry. The Cultural Revolution benefited China, and I do not believe we were rightfully convicted.
Interesting perspective. Wang, have you thought about any of the lasting effects of your actions?
Yes, actually, we all have. There isn't much else to do in prison besides think.
Let's discuss the opportunities lost to the sent-down generation due to the Down to the Countryside movement.
Of course, the Down to the Countryside movement was originally meant to re-educate many of the reactionaries of the time. Re-education would not be the proper term to use in this order to describe what took place there. These students worked long hours on the farmland and were deprived of 10 years of their formal education. This simply wasn't fair of us.
Because of our willing obedience to my husband's demands, we have failed an entire generation of our people academically.
That must be a hard thing to live with.
Not in the slightest. Sending reactionaries to the countryside reinstated Chairman Mao's beliefs and taught those scoundrels how to properly function within our society.
What about the inevitable psychological impact the revolution had on the Chinese people? There's no way you could deny that. The movement has proven to scar many of the people who were criticized.
They deserved the treatment that we in the Red Guards gave them. They didn't respect the destruction of four-olds and threaten the well-being of our causes.
Four olds. Can you explain those?
Four olds is a term used to describe the old ideas, old habits, old customs, and old culture of China. Mao believed that these were harmful to the success of communism. Throughout the city, the Red Guards tore down signs and burnt buildings that represented old China.
And with the destruction of the four-olds came the loss of large pieces of our culture.
We had to establish the four news that they were ultimately more important to us.
As the Cultural Revolution came to an end, many of the Chinese people's attitudes toward you and other leaders began to shift. How did you feel about this?
I found it quite disrespectful. After all the things we've done for the people and all of the good we've achieved for China, they turned their backs on us.
And now we're going to spend the rest of our lives in prison.
It was a really hard time for me. With the recent death of my husband and the large shift in political control, I was a bit overwhelmed. It was then that I began to realize that we may have gone a little overboard with this whole cultural revolution. We thought it would be good for us, good for all of China. Looking back, it seemed to have harmed us more than we benefited from it.
As time went on, I could see each of us deviating from our original plan. We became power hungry, almost as power hungry as the great Mao. Now we must pay for it.
Although there are many different perspectives here, I'm sure we could all agree that the Cultural Revolution was a learning experience. Most of the world would say the revolution was a failure, and you all played major roles in this. The Cultural Revolution had many lasting effects on Chinese people, culture, and society. However, without this experience, China may have never gotten out of complete communism. With the leadership of Deng Xiaoping after Mao's death, China was able to accept more capitalist ideas and open up to the rest of the world. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. It has been quite insightful.
Thank you for having us.